Conservation is an art and a science, and I want to say this and express this very clearly because there is a combination of both elements. In fact, when we did the conservation course here, we're not sure whether we're going to call it a degree in conservation, BA in conservation or BSc in conservation, and then in the end we decided to do it BCons honours. Why bachelors in conservation? Because, as I said, there's an element of both. Now you can have two parts which would lead you to a conservator. You can start sort of first following the arts, or else you can start first following sciences. Now in the educational system in Malta, up till 10 years ago, this was a very distinct part. Nowadays with the system, the educational system that we have, a student can even combine the subjects and have both arts and sciences. Now, the scientific element in conservation is very important because we have to examine the material itself. We are dealing with objects which are composed of different materials, and we have to study their composition, we have to study their deterioration processes, and we have also got to see what material we're going to use which is compatible with the object that we are going to restore. So as you can see, there's a lot of scientific work which needs to be done before even touching the object. And so we use sciences, as I said, to see the materials, to check the manufacturing process, and then to see whether the materials which we are going to use for its conservation is compatible with the materials that we are using. It's very important because it could be that what we are doing, we're actually, although on the surface it looks nicer, we're actually damaging the object and we don't realize it unless we do the scientific analysis. My subject, when you study conservation, you cannot study all the objects because the subject would be too vast, so we have to specialize. My specialization was books and works of art on paper. Why do I say works of art on paper? Because you can have watercolors, you can have engravings, you can even have three-dimensional objects like globes, which we have restored here. We can have fans, which we have also restored. These three-dimensional objects are usually composite objects because they are composed not only of paper but also of other materials like wood and metal. Now, when we, as I said, when we study conservation, we have to study physics, chemistry and biology. From the physical point of view, especially with books, you have movement. When you open a book, you're creating stresses, and this is the reason why most of the books, when you open the cover, it's where usually the cover comes off, because you have a lot of stresses. Now, if you don't stitch the book well, those stresses will remain at one point and then you will have more breakages. And obviously you have to understand what's happening there. When it comes to biology, then you will have insect damage, and in fact you will see here there's a book which is very heavily invested by termites. Termites, we didn't have them in Malta. These were introduced only 20 years ago, and now they are eating the whole country. And again, before you, however, you tackle the object, unless this is 100% ruined, I mean, this is beyond repair. You have to see what type of insect was there and which was eating your book. Because if you don't tackle the source, where it is coming from, you can never be able to deal with the problem. The same with mold, which is also a biological problem caused by high humidity, but not every level of humidity will cause mold. Mold can be caused when the humidity levels are high and they are constantly high. If you are subject an object to high levels of humidity, but then you dry it up. We do wash paper, that's 100% humidity, but we do dry it up and it won't mold. If we have to trap these pages in a humid condition, they will mold within 3 days. Now, we have to analyze what the type of mold is to be able to see what can stop that mold. Otherwise, you think you are doing something to stop it, and it will come back again. So we have to study biology to be able to do these things. Chemistry, obviously, for example, here we have a problem with inks or color. In this particular case, this is verdigris, which is a very acidic color, which is so acidic that has actually created a hole in it. Again, we have to neutralize that acid, and you usually neutralize acid by using an alkaline solution. How did I come into this field? Actually, I did come into this field quite by accident. I started out my career as a teacher, and then I became a librarian. So I'm one of those people who came sort of from the arts field. And when I was working at the National Library, the Minister of Education at that time asked me if I would go and study conservation because the books at the National Library were in a sorry state. Actually, at that time I told him no, because I was going to get married, and then he told me to think about it, and I decided to go, and I went to Rome to study. It was 30 years ago, mind you. And I discovered that it was quite my vocation, as you didn't know. In the meantime, we also managed to build a laboratory which was working and is still working on a scientific basis, because there's a difference between having a studio, just a studio, and having a laboratory. In fact, that's why we call these workshops laboratories and not studios, because we do a lot of research. Here we are in the paintings lab. When I say paintings, I mean paintings which could be on canvas, paintings which could be on wood, or even paintings which could be on metal. Now, besides the scientific component of our work, we also do it, and we do it very scientifically, is the documentation aspect of conservation. Why do we document very assiduously and scientifically? Because first and foremost, we have to be very careful and document everything that we find first on the painting that we are going to deal with. The reason being that when we restore, we're actually destructing in a way. Why? Because it is an intervention in itself. And once you remove certain layers, you have removed them forever. So we were actually losing, even though the painting visually will improve. So we have to document very well what we're doing. And we do it in a very scientific manner and in a very academic manner too. Whilst human beings can feel it, the objects won't say anything, so we have to look after them. So you have to anticipate what they are suffering from and do your remedial action in time for them not to deteriorate further. Otherwise, it will stay there, it won't complain, but it is actually dying out and you won't notice. So it's very important that we know chemistry, physics and biology to be able to look after our patients. In fact, we are in a hospital. This was an old hospital, and when we were given this place to use as a conservation center, I feel it was the best conservation true use you could have made of a building. A hospital it was, and a hospital it remained. But before it was a hospital for people, now it's a hospital for objects.